Give me la dolce vita, hot music.
I'm Jimmy Petterson, born in the United States, resident of Austria, citizen of the world. BA in history, master's in education, followed by more than 40 years of ski bumming, street music, and travel. But hey, Dad, don't fret about my poor resume. I've met many people, made a lot of friends, skied more than 4,000 days on all 7 continents, and I've come away with quite a few interesting stories to tell.
I'm traveling free. I wanna travel free.
The currency of the country is the won, but as a tourist, one is not allowed to use won. Instead, we usually pay in US dollars, despite the fact that America is the mortal enemy of the country. After paying, we're likely to get Chinese RMB in change. There's no internet here, and tourists can leave their mobile phones at home because the country's mobile network is totally isolated from the rest of the world. The capital city has many appearances of modernity, with an architecturally innovative stadium, a science center shaped like an atom, and other high-tech structures. But the wide city boulevards are filled almost entirely with bicyclists, as Henry Ford's early 19th century invention, the automobile, seems to have been left out of the mix. Welcome to the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, better known in the West as North Korea. To add to the surrealistic mix that already dominated the landscape of the DPRK, on December 31, 2013, the new leader of the Kim dynasty, Kim Jong-un, inaugurated a ski resort, Masikryong. The news of that project began to set the wheels of my somewhat malfunctioning brain into motion. I had already skied in more than 70 countries and was keen on adding another one to my list. While skiing in North Korea was certainly a goal of mine and a perk of the trip, even without seeing the resort, I was sure that there are many better places to ski on the planet. But the cultural experience was certain to be otherworldly. There's probably no other country on Earth today that is less understood and more misunderstood than the so-called Hermit Kingdom. The 24 million inhabitants don't have a very good understanding of their home country because of the lack of proper comparison possibilities with the outside world. And most Westerners, who live in the delusion that they receive an objective worldview from their Western media outlets, are probably almost equally misinformed. The North Korean press is, of course, an arm of the government, while the Western press has increasingly become dominated by a few mega corporations. According to Business Insider, 6 media giants now control 90% of the American media, regardless of whether it is print, radio, TV, and even movies. I had read many Western press releases and articles about North Korea prior to our visit, and I was rather disappointed at the bias that was invariably shown. One feature in the Huffington Post described the construction of the ski center like this: hundreds, if not thousands, of soldier builders in drab olive-colored uniforms, shock brigades assigned to especially urgent and difficult tasks, scour the slopes. Some, carrying blocks of concrete on their backs, look like they are barely teenagers. Other workers pound at the stone with hammers. Young women march with shovels over their shoulders. The description seemed to carry connotations of the evil practice of forced child labor. If I were in the military service, would I rather be building a ski resort or embroiled in battle in the likes of Afghanistan, Iraq, or Vietnam? For all the Western criticism of North Korea, its atomic weapons program, and its oversized military, the country has not been involved in any fighting since the end of the Korean War in 1953. And in the final analysis, only one country has ever used atomic weapons in warfare. In the end, there is one way to attempt to get at least a small view to the truth. Go to the source. And that's what we decided to do. Besides hoping to get our own view of the reality from the source, our mission was skiplomacy. Through the common bond of skiing, we hope to not only ski, but also to learn, communicate, and share with the local people. Unfortunately, at the time of our arrival, an atmosphere of fear, distrust, and belligerence between the DPRK and her traditional rivals had reached a frenzied peak that had not been seen since the end of the Cold War. In January, the North had tested a hydrogen bomb to the dismay of the rest of the world, and the day before our arrival, they launched a rocket to put a communications satellite into orbit. The West claimed that the rocket was really intended to test a missile capable of carrying an atomic bomb. Meanwhile, a 21-year-old American student had been detained 5 weeks earlier and was still being held prisoner for stealing a propaganda poster. As the only American in our group, I felt rather nervous. I had to make sure and rein in my free-spirited nature and follow all the rules of etiquette and protocol during my stay. Before my travels, I did my homework on the two countries. The entire land had been colonized and abused by Japan from 1910 until the end of World War II in 1945. At that time, it was liberated by the Allied forces, only to be split into spheres of influence by the fiercely competing United States and Soviet Union, an early victim of the Cold War. The war became very hot in 1950 when the communist forces of Kim Il-sung crossed the 38th parallel and attacked South Korea. The United States came to the aid of the South, while Kim Il-sung's army was supported by the Soviet Union as well as China. In this first proxy war between the superpowers, it's estimated that close to 5 million people were killed, wounded, or missing in action, half of them civilians, and the conflict ended in a stalemate. A peace treaty was never signed, and the nations are still officially at war. By 1955, all foreign troops had left North Korea, but 75,000 American soldiers remained in the South. Today, there are still about 28,000 American troops in South Korea. The armistice, which precluded the introduction of nuclear weapons into the region, was broken in 1958 by the United States. For the first period following the disastrous war, the DPRK flourished under the communist system. According to a Columbia University report, in the late 1950s, North Korea may have had the fastest economic growth in the world. Meanwhile, South Korea was one of the poorest countries in the world, with a GDP in the early 60s that hovered around $100 a year. Official data from the DPRK is basically unavailable, but according to the most reliable sources, the CIA and the South Korean National Unification Board, the economic advantage of the DPRK lasted until somewhere in the mid-70s, at which time South Korea passed their neighbor and has never looked back since then. Once we arrived, we were met by 3 guides from one of the official state-operated travel organizations. Our guides, Mr. Ri, Mr. Yun, and Ms. Kim, tried to make sure we would not see anything beyond the scope of what the government wants to showcase. Photos of poverty, deprived living conditions, or anything that might show the country in a poor light had to be snapped secretly. We were not allowed out of our hotel except on our daily guided tour, and we were regularly told to refrain from taking photographs. One of the first stops on our tour was the War Museum. One of the main items here at the War Museum is the Puebla, the infamous Puebla incident, a spy ship that was captured by the North Koreans. But here we have other items. For example, this is a spy helicopter that was found flying over Korean airspace in 1963 that was captured. We asked for special permission to visit the newly built Science and Technology Center, a location not on the standard tours, and we were both surprised and happy that the DPRK complied with our request. Our group is more interested in the Children's Museum here in the Space and Science Center than in the War Museum. And that's the way it should be. We're all kids after all, and war games are the worst kind. From the moment we arrived in Pyongyang, we entered a surrealistic world that's hard to really describe for anyone who hasn't personally visited the country. It's as if we walked directly into the canvas of a Dali painting and spent 8 days wandering around with a large group of loyalists from Jonestown. More than 60 years of rule under the Kim dynasty has seen the nation develop into a personality cult, 25 million people strong, that is as bizarre as it is devout. Giant photographs, paintings, and statues of grandfather Kim Il-sung and father Kim Jong-il abound in every corner of the North Korean capital. And on February 16th, the whole nation celebrates Kim Jong-il's birthday with fireworks, parades, a mass dance, and much more. One of the highlights of the festivities is an exhibit featuring tens of thousands of red Kim Jong-ilias, a specially designed hybrid begonia that was first cultivated by Japanese botanist Kamo Mototeru as a gift for the leader's birthday in 1988. Thousands of locals queue up to celebrate the former leader's birthday by viewing the display of flowers. Even when the birthday celebration was over, we were far from finished with paying our respects to dead Kims. For the last 2 hours, we've had an extremely surrealistic experience. We've seen the mausoleum of the Kim family here in Pyongyang. It was an amazing experience. A building that you see behind me, larger than a couple football fields, and inside were hundreds and hundreds of huge, almost life-size photographs of both Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, shaking hands with various leaders of state. There were huge halls with awards that were given to them by various different countries. Everything is in marble. The rooms are about 8 meters high, if not higher, with huge marble pillars. We took an escalator, a horizontal escalator, to get there, which took 7 minutes long, and then various subsequent escalators just to arrive in the hall. They have air to brush all the dust off of us to make sure that we don't contaminate anything. We walk over special brushes that clean our shoes. It was really something totally out of this world. Our day also included a short ride on the subway, which was certainly very different. The London Underground or the subways of New York and Paris have walls drenched in placards and adverts. But in Pyongyang, there was absolutely nothing to disturb the tranquility of the whitewashed walls as we descended a long escalator to the trains. Once we were under the city, the station was lit up by giant crystal chandeliers, while the walls were decorated by beautiful murals celebrating the working class. As they say, it's Greek to me. A lot of interesting information about the skiing here. You'll hear more about it. Speaking of waking up in a surrealistic dream, can you imagine clicking on YouTube and finding yourself as an actor in a North Korean ski promo video? No, I and my friends, we've enjoying very much the skiing here. The mountain and the pistes are well designed, especially good for us expert skiers. There's some very good challenging slopes.
This resort is...
Well, similar to promo videos in the West, this really only tells one side of the story. Any critical points were conveniently left out. One negative thing is that the slope we've been skiing all day is very good, well prepared, but some of the other slopes they have not been preparing with the piste machine. We've seen that they have a few modern piston bullies, but we've also seen them using a more primitive method of piste preparation. Maybe they're short of fuel. There are certain problems with the on-ramps and off-ramps here. They don't really know how to design these, and this is too flat. And yesterday I fell getting off of this because the lift pushes you because you're not moving fast enough, and it knocks you over before you get a chance to ski off the off-ramp. Other things, when you have the ski rental here, it's only, you rent the ski for one day and then you have to re-rent it the next day and re-rent it the next day, which is obviously not a good organization system.
Is this yours?
No.
No?
These are too short. Mine are more long. Oh, what a relief. I have my own skis back. The rental system needs a little bit of fine-tuning. What do you think? The magic carpet also had a rather funny problem. Ice had frozen to the conveyor belt, and the people's skis slid backwards. The only solution was to have the lift operator stand behind the skis to allow the skier to progress to the top. So I'm now riding up the lift in the Ischgl-Padach-Bahn, a four-person gondola, but I'm not in Ischgl in Austria. I'm in North Korea. The controversy, of course, was that there are UN sanctions against luxury goods because of the atomic program. And when they wanted to build a ski area here, the Americans wanted to put a kink in that and put pressure on Austria, France, Italy, Switzerland, all to not deliver lifts. The area was completed in record time despite any efforts by the West. But more recently, this lift was added to make the area more complete because the lift goes directly to the top, whereas the chairlifts go in 3 stages up to the top. And it was sold from the Ischgl company to a middle person in Austria. It was then sold to the Chinese and then came by that way over to North Korea. This is a normal procedure in these kind of cases, and I think nobody expected that the ban on luxury equipment was going to hold and prevent North Korea from building this ski area. The Chinese have said this is not any violation because it's not luxury equipment. This is equipment which they are using for the benefit of the people. Everybody wants to participate in sports, and that's their explanation. Well, my 72nd country. I've skied now in North Korea. It's an interesting place. They've built a good ski resort. There's a lot of kinks they have to work out, but they've made very good pistes for all ability groups. And if you do want the opportunity to ski on a slope with almost nobody else to share the slope with, this is the place to come. Here in the flats at the bottom of the mountain is where one should learn to ski. But in a country where the people have no ski history, that fact is not clear to many people. These guys are apparently doing the North Korean way of learning to ski. It's like learn or die. They're total beginners. They're on a black slope. Nobody has informed them that this isn't where they should be learning. We saw a girl almost commit suicide here, going about 60 kilometers an hour straight into the fence. She wrecked her knee and was lucky to survive. Atop Taewa Peak is a restaurant with, among other attractions, a tropical fish aquarium and waitresses who double as karaoke singers. It's not your usual decoration in a mountaintop resort. Pickled todok with soy sauce. I'm sure that sounds very tasty. Braised aralia shoots and pheasant balls. I would rather have the female pheasant. Skip the pheasant balls. So at the restaurant here on the top of the Masikryong ski area, here's the drinks menu. You can have non-alcoholic drinks or alcoholic cocktails, and it's pretty expensive. The instant coffee, which is normal here, is only $1.50, but an espresso is $4.50, a cappuccino $6, a latte $6.50. And even a green tea is $3. The drinks, of course, even more expensive. I'm not sure what they all are, but a Taiwabong sunrise is $6. I suppose that's the local equivalent of a tequila sunrise. Well, I didn't want to have a mixed drink anyway. I think an instant coffee should do it for me. I'm a ski bum after all.
Are you American?
Yes?
Really?
I'm not the president. But my name is not Bush. The DPRK is a place where even a ski bum can afford the luxury of a shave. But after the response of a local patron to finding out that I was American, I was a bit reluctant about allowing a sharp razor so close to my neck. Even with the razor at my throat, I was probably safer than this guy, who's still trying to get back to the hotel. Hwang-grong-i?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. They have all kinds of interesting alcohols here, but I would say this one is the most interesting. It's 60%, so it's not only strong because of the snake, it's also the liquid that's very strong. The Masakryong Hotel held up a high standard. Big swimming pool, nice sauna, and good food. At the base of the mountain was a large electronic message board. All day long it broadcast a mix of patriotic music and propaganda films. At least the lift station was completely devoid of advertising billboards for Swiss watches and Audi Quattros. The gondola had broken down on our first day, and as a result, the cabins had been left out at the mercy of the elements all night long. Well, Juha, I think that's the only view we're going to get. Some cracked ice.
Welcome to Masakryong Ski Resort.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was great.
Okay.
You're a very good skier. Super skier. Yeah. Meanwhile, back on the Black Slope, our friend is getting hungry for last night's dinner. On the lower slopes, our head guide, Miss Kim, was having her own troubles dealing with her first day on skis. And it was about time for me to try to improve relations between the U.S. and the DPRK.
Thank you.
I tell you what the problem was there. You're starting to ski before you learn how to stop.
This is good?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
These are your brakes. Okay? So if the skis are flat, they're going to slide. But if you put the knees in together, then you have the brakes.
Come on, more, push harder, push, stop. Okay, good.
Okay.
Good. And let's do it again. We're gonna watch me. I'm pushing out.
Okay.
She doesn't know that in our traditions in Austria, the ski instructor is always supposed to get the girl. We soon headed back to Pyongyang and still had plenty of activities on our itinerary. We're here at the Grand People's Study House. This is a very important building here. It's a beautiful building. The roof and the style is Asian. You have a fantastic view out over the entire city of Pyongyang from here. But more important is that this is a place where about 5,000 students and other people every day come to use the library. I spoke with one of our guides who said during his studying years here at university, he was here more or less every day. For me, it was a great opportunity because I got a chance to speak to a hall of about 100 students who were learning English. They were very warm and receptive. I spoke to them about my hopes that the people of the world would communicate better, and that way we could overcome the stupid politics of the world through communication.
Hello. It's an honor for our tourist group to be here, and we're happy that we can see the way a classroom is here in your country. We're very happy particularly that people in your country are also learning English. We're not as good because I don't speak Korean. I'm sorry. I myself am from the United States.
Now you try.
Okay.
Good morning. Pleasure to meet you.
I hope that in the future it will be very peaceful and we can have lots of exchanges between our countries.
Felix Abt is a Swiss entrepreneur who lived and worked in the DPRK from 2002 to 2009 and also wrote a book entitled A Capitalist in North Korea. The picture he paints of the country is very different than the one we continue to read about from the Western journalists who enter the country for 1 week, are allowed to observe very little, and then report their guesswork about what they didn't get to see to their Western audiences.
Today's North Korea is very different from the country of the 90s. The economy has expanded substantially over the past 15 years, poverty has dropped and a middle class has emerged. The DPRK certainly has many shortcomings and is guilty of gross human rights abuses. But without being present and interacting with North Koreans, you can't know what they're up to and you can't influence anything for the better. I know from years of experience in North Korea that positive, intense interaction can lead to many changes. Foreigners, be they diplomats, NGO workers, business people or even tourists, always leave a mark on the people's minds.
After my talk in front of the English class, I hoped that my little part would also be helpful. Interaction with the people seemed much more relevant to our trip's purpose than merely visiting museums. We're visiting a special football school for kids from 9 to 16. It's 60% boys and 40% girls. They come from all over the country and stay in the school. It's right in the shadow of Mayday Stadium, which is one of the largest stadiums in the world. Our guides are not sure exactly how many people fit into the stadium, but it's a beautiful stadium, pretty recently built, and I'm sure the kids have a goal when they're playing here that someday they're going to play in Mayday Stadium.
Shake hands, two.
Okay.
Yeah, greet each other's. Shake.
Oh, they do the handhold. All of them? Hard defense.
It was a little weak. I know. I'm 66 after all. I think this is going to be one of the big victories for North Korea over the West since 1953. Oh yeah! Bravo! So the North Korean teenage girls team, they played a very clean game. They not only didn't tackle the 66-year-old man, they didn't tackle anybody, but they still won convincingly 4-2. The 2 goals were 2 goals more than I expected us to make.
Very well done. Girls, thank you.
After the match, I spoke with one of the teachers. You were telling me that you were in China last year, in Beijing. So how did you like it? How did you compare it with here in your home country?
I think the city was very dirty in some places. Of course, many buildings and apartments, but it's nice. But I think in our country, not so many cars, no pollution, the air is fresh and the beautiful places. But in Beijing, the air is not good. It was not good for the players. So
Sure.
Our players didn't like the air in the place, and then also the what is it? Environment was not good for the players.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
We continued to interact with the Korean people as much as possible as we visited the Children's Palace, the International House of Culture, and a music school. We also spent some time with a large group of children during a school holiday.
This is great. All over the world, if kids have enough to eat and are not freezing to death, they're the same. They laugh, they play, they're happy. It's great to see so many, got thousands of kids here all just having a good time.
Our tour of the DPRK also took us to the demilitarized zone, the 250-kilometer long and 4-kilometer wide strip of land that has divided the DPRK from the Republic of Korea since the Korean War. I couldn't help but think again about that proxy war between the United States and China and the Soviet Union. The people on both sides of the 38th parallel were the pawns in the game.
Have you read The Brave New World or 1984? Did you learn the lesson from the long drawn-out Cold War? Americans and Russians, Koreans and Vietnamese. So many lives were sacrificed, but nothing was achieved. Do you really understand what was the driving force? The clash of ideologies for capitalism's natural course. Were we really spilling blood to defend democracy? Or were the commies blocking corners where Big Mac wants to be?
We're here at the entry to the demilitarized zone, and the sign here says, "We will give a unified fatherland to the next generation." It's a nice wish, and it seems to be almost an obsession with the North Koreans to reunify. The one hindrance that they see, the major hindrance, is that the United States is still occupying South Korea, and they want the unification to be something that is just between the two, North and South Korea, together without interference from outside countries. I really see in the people here in North Korea your strong wish for having this unification, and it's a very understandable wish, especially when here close there are people in North Korea who have family in South Korea and they cannot see each other, and it's so stupid. Yeah.
모든 미국 사람들이 당신처럼 생각하면 저미 관계는 순조롭게 다 풀리고 조선반도도 인체 통일이 되고.
So all the Americans thinking like you, and then there is no war, and then all the Korean people can live. All the people they can live peacefully and independently.
Yeah.
And then the relationship between U.S. and Korea and any other countries, good relations.
I had not expected a military man to be so moved. It occurred to me that there are things that even supersede skiing. I had enjoyed 3 days on the slopes of Masikryong, but shaking hands and exchanging a few simple thoughts with this nameless soldier would be the most powerful memory that I bring home from the DPRK. After our trip was finished and we had said our farewells in the DPRK, I thought once again about the Swiss entrepreneur Felix Abt and something I had heard him say.
Engagement works, yet the West has persisted over the last 60 years with its policies of sanctions and coercion. These have failed to achieve any improvement in the opening up and development of North Korea, but have made the lives of ordinary North Koreans more difficult and serve to make the regime more insecure, defensive and resistant to outside influence.
North Korea has for many years been referred to in the Western media as the Hermit Kingdom. But I wonder if the DPRK is not more similar to the schoolboy who displays different values, customs, and behavior than his schoolmates, and is therefore teased, mobbed, and bullied by the other children, until he ultimately is relegated to a lonely, ostracized existence of milling about by himself at the far end of the playground. In March of 2016, President Obama ended 50 years of the failed American embargo in Cuba and took the first steps to normalizing relations between the two countries.
To President Castro, the people of Cuba, thank you so much for the warm welcome. I have come here to bury the last remnant of the Cold War in the Americas.
In light of Obama's initiative in Cuba and the opinion of Mr. Abt, might it not be time for the United States and their Western followers to begin letting the ostracized little boy back into their games?